Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we have a little bit of a different one this time. Typically we like to keep it positive on the channel. We like to not really talk about the negative things in wrestling, but I feel like there's been a lot of things that we need to talk about, should talk about, just to maybe bring awareness to it to people who don't know, or maybe if somehow someone from WWE watches this, they could kind of get the message and start to change things. And there was a lot of stuff that happened before this, but kind of the cause of this video is going to be the batch of releases this year. Now this is a thing that they do every year, and to some degree I kind of understand it, because you know, it's a company, they're trying to save money, they're trying to make different quotas, whatever the thing is that they're actually trying to meet. But I feel like there's different ways they could do it, there's different things they could cut down on. There's a lot of things you can do rather than just having a big batch of like 20 to 30 different releases every single year.
I think what makes it more dramatic about this situation is also just the names that were involved in this batch of releases. Pretty much every year we know we're gonna have one name that's kind of on like the fence of like being on the upper echelon of like the mid-card tier and stuff like that, and you might have a few people who are in the bottom tier, but you have people like Kairi Sane, Aleister Black, who have been featured pretty prominently on the past couple of weeks of both Raw and SmackDown. So there are people who are in storylines. Kairi was kind of getting this push where we thought maybe she might go after that IC title after she finished up her storyline with Asuka. Maybe she walks out of that on top and we see a new babyface type of run for Kairi. Whereas Aleister Black, he was feuding with Randy Orton going into WrestleMania, but when Randy Orton won Elimination Chamber, things kind of obviously changed, and he was supposed to be apparently in that WrestleMania main event, kind of featured with Randy Orton, but that was obviously scrapped apparently for Pat McAfee. But yeah, it is a really weird decision of the names who we did see get released.
And the name making the most noise on the internet right now is going to be Kairi Sane, but there's a lot of people, including Aleister Black, Zelina Vega, Uncle Howdy, Nikki Cross, Santos Escobar, Motor City Machine Guns. The entire Wyatt Six is released as well. Apollo Crews, Andre Trace, Zoe Stark, Alba Fire, Tyra May Steele, Serena Linton, Tyson, Tyree, Chris Island, Malik Blade, Trill London, Luca Cristofino, and as of today we also found out Carly Bright was released. So a very large list of people. This might be one of the largest set of releases, at least that I've personally seen. We obviously don't like this. We don't support that. We feel like if you sign people to contracts, you should see the contract all the way through. Now if they have a reason to be released, like a Matt Riddle type of situation, things of that nature, then of course, you know, that's always fine to, you know, let those type of people go who are causing problems. We've seen even CM Punk get released from AEW, and he's the top guy of pro wrestling, period. So, you know, when things happen, I do agree people can be released, and that's perfectly fine, but a lot of these people did nothing. Some of these people are coming fresh off of injuries, including Zoe Stark, who just had that crazy injury in that triple threat Rhea Ripley match with Kairi Sane as well, I believe. And yeah, just a crazy time considering I believe she just got cleared and now this happened, and you know, it's kind of an unfortunate time for her because she was someone who never really got that full opportunity to shine, and I do feel like she was good enough to be that like top world champion woman on the roster because she is that good.
And when you talk about people who weren't able to shine, I think the Motor City Machine Guns are also in that conversation as well. I mean, they signed for, I think it's been about 2 years since we first seen them, and you know, obviously they had that one run with all the tag teams where we had a lot of great matches coming out of it, and they had the stuff with the Street Profits, DIY reform and stuff like that, so it was really good for a little bit, but that didn't last very long. That was probably about a good 3-6 months probably, and after that it was a lot of just nothing. We've seen a lot of these teams kind of fizzle out. We didn't see the Street Profits, we didn't see the Motor City Machine Guns for a while. So yeah, it was a very weird situation, and guys like that who are on the tail end of their career who kind of said that this was probably going to be their last contract in pro wrestling. Whether that stands true, who knows. Obviously they might think they still have a little bit more left to give to the industry, to kind of, you know, maybe they go back to TNA where they all started things and kind of made a name for themselves, or they go and do the run in AEW that everybody kind of wanted them to do. But who knows how that's going to go for them. I'm sure if they do want to re-sign somewhere, any company's going to be wanting to take them in and add them to their tag team division.
And also something that's been happening recently is the ads, specifically for me on pay-per-views. Now obviously there's a lot of ads on Raw, SmackDowns, all that stuff, but I could kind of ignore that. That's part of weekly TV, whether it's on Netflix, whether it's on TV. It's kind of one and the same to me at this point in 2026, so I don't really mind those. But on pay-per-views, when we're having a WrestleMania that's a 6-7 hour 2-night show, and we're having half the time being ads, half the time being wrestling, not even really half the time being wrestling, it's kind of crazy, and there should definitely be a lot more. On the other pay-per-views that are a lot smaller, where you have 4 matches on the card, you should probably stop doing those and just add more matches to every single card. You can run the same amount of ads, but just at least run more matches at the very least, because we do want to see more wrestling. There's a lot of people who deserve those opportunities, and yeah, I would love to see more wrestling rather than ads on my pay-per-view.
And the wrestling community has kind of all seen the light of this kind of after the events of WrestleMania, where it was about 15 minutes between each match, which when you think about it, it feels like more like a UFC, which at least for me is one of my biggest pet peeves in UFC, is that there is like a 15-minute wait period between the next fight and between each fight. So you kind of lose that momentum a lot of the time, and when a lot of the time as well, these matches are getting cut for more ad time is also definitely a situation that just doesn't make sense. Either give them the time, fit more, we can run the show a little bit longer, start a little bit earlier. You can find different ways to make time for these ads, even if it is involving some of the wrestlers who can obviously get paid off of that, I'm sure, as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do to kind of fix this time of ads to still get them on the show. We obviously have all the ads on the ring already, and I'm sure they're going to be adding more throughout the years on the Trons and stuff like that, and I'm probably seeing them also on wrestlers' gears eventually as well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways to get around this. Just hopefully it doesn't keep taking up too much time on these shows.
And for our next topic, we have more opportunities for young stars, specifically on the main roster. I feel like they do a really good job with it on NXT. They give a lot of people different time. People who are newer in the ring, people who are more experienced in the ring. I feel like everyone kind of gets a good amount of time in NXT, and they do a pretty good job with their roster. But on the main roster, there's definitely people who you don't see for months at a time. Like, when was the last time we seen an Akira Tozawa match? When was the last time we seen Otis? There's a lot of people who need to get TV time, who should be getting TV time, and if you don't have something for them, we have to stop signing all of these people and let some of the other companies like a TNA have some people that, you know, and obviously they don't care about them, but in a way they kind of should obviously care about their wrestlers and things of that nature. But it's kind of a weird thing to have this many people on the bench, especially when you have these young stars coming from NXT every single year, pumping up your main roster division, making it more and more strong. And obviously with that, there's going to be people who fall off and get lower on the card, and now there's not much use for them anymore.
In the past, we've seen a lot of these top stars kind of fizzle out, being with the depth of this roster. You got the guys like AJ Styles before the John Cena stuff. There was a point in time where he wasn't really getting seen weekly. He was getting seen probably like 2 times a month, really, and that's really about it. There's guys like Shinsuke Nakamura who came back for the AJ Styles match. We haven't really seen him since, I believe. I think he's doing a little bit of the Tama Tonga stuff, but he's not really showing up necessarily every week. So there's a lot of guys who, you know, definitely deserve a lot more time. And again, to guys who just really need it to more shine. Obviously, we're talking about the younger guys right now, and I think they're doing a little bit of a good job. Obviously, Oba Femi coming off the back of a big moment at WrestleMania, Javon with his stuff in the ladder match, and then Trick, obviously the United States champion. So they are they're slowly getting better with it, but it's still something I think we need to see throughout the entire division, even in that women's division as well.
And speaking of more opportunities, we're going to stay on the subject because they are absolutely destroying the tag team division. We've just seen them, obviously, like we talked about, release the Motor City Machine Guns, and just the tag team division just hasn't been booked just in general. Not hasn't been booked bad, they just haven't been booked in general. There's been no tag team matches. The women's tag team division has been very, very good. They've been booking that pretty consistently. The matches are interesting. The women in the division are interesting. The current tag team champions are a little bit less to be desired with Paige and Brie Bella, but it's a big return in Paige, so I kind of understand that. But with the men, we didn't get a tag team match for the titles on WrestleMania once again. Obviously, we've seen the champions on WrestleMania, but it's a 6-man match that wasn't for the titles. So it's kind of just this weird thing where Triple H just doesn't like booking the tag team division. We've seen them have that amazing match the night after WrestleMania last year, and now this year they didn't really get the rewards or the benefits from having a big banger match like that.
A few years ago, when we did have both the men's tag team titles united as one, it did feel at that time like it was a bit too much, because there was a lot of tag teams at that time who are real tag teams, who are really building names for themselves that you wanted to see more often. And then when we seen that split finally happen, at least for myself, I was really excited for it, just because I thought that meant more time for these tag teams. However, it's been almost the complete opposite, where now I feel like now there's less tag teams than ever, especially on that SmackDown side, where that side's getting way weaker. They just lost the Street Profits who are going over to Raw, it looks like. Obviously, you mentioned Motor City. DIY is now split up, obviously Ciampa and AEW now. So yeah, I feel like now is probably the time where we need to really unite the tag team champions again, and that could be the reason why we're seeing so much success for the women's tag team champions than the men's right now, is because they can go between brands and defend these titles against different women who they haven't seen in quite a few months for the most part. So yeah, definitely another thing that just needs to get fixed is tag team division, and probably just making it 1 belt instead of 2 again.
Yeah, and kind of keep it on the subject of the tag team division and kind of involving that. we've seen it at WrestleMania with the tag team division involving celebrities with IShowSpeed. Now, IShowSpeed kind of gets an exception from majority of people. I would say people tend to like him. People tend to like Jelly Roll a little bit, at least. Maybe they're turning on him now because he's had a lot of time. But there's people who definitely get a pass. Even Lil Yachty, I feel like he kind of won people over and it's kind of making people not really mind him on TV. But there's been a lot of people who are just there just to be there. We've seen the comedian guys every single time on Raw. We see a ton of people in the crowd that they show. With the amount of time that they showed the people in crowd, we probably could have damn near had another short match or something, or at least a segment for somebody. So I definitely would rather a little bit less celebrity involvement, but then when people do get involved as a celebrity, they can at least finish out their story and not do the Travis Scott thing or the Rock thing.
Yeah, the celebrities like IShowSpeed and Lil Yachty. I think for the most part as well is that with them, you don't get too much of them. You get to see these little segments and you left wanting more from them. Whereas Jelly Roll, Pat McAfee, we were left wanting no more of them. We didn't want to see them for multiple weeks on end, but unfortunately we kept getting fed them and we've seen them more and more, and they were getting more involved in these storylines. I think that is where it really is the differential, is that how much are they deep into these stories when they're not even the wrestler in said match. At least IShowSpeed was setting up a match for himself at WrestleMania. Pat McAfee was just in the corner and he wasn't even involved in most of this match. He was probably in there for a good 10 minutes at most. So yeah, it's definitely a thing again of just why do we have to involve these people who aren't a part of the main story? I get they try to involve them, but you obviously seen the reaction. It did not work, and I hope that's something they also took into account, is that the fans don't want to see more celebrities. We do not want to see it. It might get you more clicks on mainstream media, but the real fans are the people you probably want to keep around. Don't want to see this shit.
And last but not least, we have major woman storylines need to come. And as last, but it's definitely not the least important one. This might be the most important one that we're going to talk about, because the women have been putting on match of the year contender matches pretty much in every single company. We've seen Danny Luna and TNA do a lot of really good stuff. Obviously, Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, a lot of people in WWE, a lot of people in AEW, Stardom, wherever you want to name people. Women are kind of rising right now, and people are starting to wake up to women's division wrestling, and they really are that good, and they're really creeping up to the men on being just as good, if not even better, than most men on the roster. So with that being said, they need those storylines just like the men get it. Like, what if Rhea Ripley had a big story going into WrestleMania? How big would that match be with her and a Jade Cargill or a Charlotte or whoever the big star that she's going against could be? But major women's storylines with a big payoff at the end needs to start happening.
Women's matches don't necessarily need to have the exact same amount of time as the men's world championship match, but there's no reason that there should be a less than 10-minute match for the women's world champion. These are your two top women of that division, and they're only getting less than 10 minutes. It feels like that is more of a mid-card type of thing. If that was for the IC champion, I can expect that more from that, but I'm pretty sure at WrestleMania we did see the the women's intercontinental match go longer than the women's world champion with Stephanie and Liv. So yeah, it's definitely a thing that I do hope does change, because like you said, the women have been killing it. Rhea is one of the top people not only in the women's division but the entire company, so she is definitely somebody who can headline a few shows. There's no reason why with Saturn's main events we can see some women headline it, just to kind of break the quota, and kind of change things up and make new stars even bigger stars. So yeah, definitely a lot of things you can do with the women who definitely have been killing it over the past years.
Yeah, Rhea Ripley is pretty much the face of women's wrestling in general, just as a whole. People, I would say, look up to Rhea Ripley. Obviously, I'm not in there wrestling in the training rooms or anything, but I would probably assume it's safe to say Rhea Ripley is someone who's looked up to by a lot of pro wrestlers, to be on top of the mountain like she is, to be as popular as the top men superstars. There's really been no one like a Rhea Ripley who's came up and been this popular, at least in recent years. We've seen people like Sable Way in the past who was mega popular, but that's obviously a lot different than what a Rhea Ripley is. So this is a new thing, and I feel like it needs to be paid off in a new way. This basically is your women's division developing into big major stars, and we could see Rhea Ripley even get those Hollywood roles and things of that nature. I know she's a fan of Terrifier. What if she was in that next Terrifier movie? That would be an incredible thing for her, and I'm sure she would love it. So definitely these need to be things that happen, and the women's need to be just as big of stars as the Cody Rhodes and the Romans are at some point in time. But we let you know what we didn't like about WWE. You can let us know what you didn't like about it, and maybe there's some things we didn't miss or something that you want to pick up on in the comments below. But we appreciate you guys for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.